Well, hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Straight Outta Prison podcast. My name is James K. Jones, and this is the best of season 3.
And this is Haley Jones, and you've thrown me off because usually you say, this is James K. Jones, and this is my story. And then I say, and this is Haley Jones, and this is his story that has now become a part of my story.
I think if people are up to season 3, they pretty much got that down. They got that on.
I know, but you threw me off of my rhythm. So,
okay.
But yes, like you said, this is the best of season 3.
Coming at you.
It's going to be really good. I've been loving the number 1 and 2.
Yeah, this has been really fun. I like it. But this will be the last week that we do a best of because we don't have any more seasons. Plus, season 4 is premiering September the 7th.
Drum roll, please. Yes, September the 7th. Like you said, September 7th, season 4. We are stoked about it.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Season 3.
We made it.
What's up? I feel like we need to go out to dinner to celebrate. You're out of prison.
I'm free at last.
Driving off.
Free at last. Thank God Almighty I'm free at last.
Driving away, I should say. If you're going to kiss the dirt of the free ground, but you decided, ain't nobody got time for that.
I had always planned on doing that. That had been my plan for almost 7 years. But somehow that morning, everything was going so fast. We got to the end of the driveway, and Tommy was like stopping, and I think he wanted to take like a picture or do something cheesy like that. And I just said, I don't want to do it. I'm good. Just get me out of here.
Keep driving.
Just get me out of here.
Don't stop.
I don't want to do it. Yeah, well, I was, there's a lot of things I wanted to do the first day. I wanted to call my mom. I wanted to see, I wanted to do all the things.
Right.
But probably more than anything is I want to get something to eat.
Yeah.
Because brother was hungry.
So, yeah, because you had talked about how the food and in the Alabama prisons was terrible.
It was awful.
Yeah.
I mean, it was worse than like dog food. It was, and I felt like a kid in a candy store. Like I couldn't process like the food, and it was just, I'm pretty sure I ate some of everything that was there. And then, but when there was cereal and then they had milk. And then I was so excited about it. And then I looked up and Tommy was crying.
Wait, you were so excited about the
milk. And
how were you just like, oh my God, milk? Like,
I was just excited to see. I haven't had, by that time, it had been almost 4 years since I had milk. Like we didn't have milk.
What did you have? Well, did you have cereal, I guess, in prison? Or?
Well, if they did cereal, they would take that powdered milk and then they would put water in it and shake it up.
Oh.
So that was the milk. We didn't have milk. And I was excited about the milk, and he was bawling, and I was like, what's the matter? Like, what's the matter with you? And he was like, I've just never seen anybody get so excited about milk. It was, I kind of felt bad for him, but I was just like, well, I haven't had milk. It's been a long time since I had milk. But I didn't know how to talk on the phone. Mm-hmm. But, eventually.
I didn't know how to talk on the phone.
Well, no, like with a regular, like a home phone, you can hear you can hear yourself. And that one I couldn't. And it might have been because we were in the car and the background noise. I don't know.
Yeah. But
it was very difficult. And then, but I finally got on the phone with my mom, and, her tears of joy. And she said, real? Is it for real? All that stuff. And it was, and of course, when are you coming to see me? Like, Mom, you gotta give me a minute. I gotta figure out, I got a lot to figure out. But I'm coming to see you. But, there's a lot. I got to get through it. I got a lot of hoops to jump through real quick.
It's hard to believe. I mean, our daughter just turned 7. So to think that you were in prison as long as she's been alive.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's
crazy.
To put, think of it from that perspective. It feels like a very long time.
It was the better part of the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, even to this day, people will tell me like a classic movie that they love. And if it was during the 90s, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I didn't see that. Then we went to Tommy's house. He was going to show me. He was going to show me where I was going to stay. I guess I was kind of taken back when we pulled into his neighborhood because it was like he lived in Cahaba Heights, which was on the outskirts of Birmingham. Now it's actually part of Vestavia, but at that time it was just unincorporated Jefferson County, and it's behind the Summit on 280.
Okay, which is a big shopping center area.
Yeah, and just the neighborhood, like all these big houses. And then when we pulled up to his house, I was like, this is your house? I mean, because it looked like a mansion. Like it was like, it was 2 stories, kind of tucked in a hill, yards and landscaping and flowers. And it was just beautiful. I mean,
you describe all that. And I think, because you didn't grow up in a house or neighborhood like that either, right?
No, my granny had a nice house in a nice neighborhood.
I'm just thinking you're coming from prison, being in a prison cell, to one of the nicest houses you've ever been, that as far as I'm going to stay here, I'm going to sleep here.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Because this was, it was nice. It was crazy.
What a contrast.
I felt like Little Orphan Annie, like coming in there, like, hey, I'm James.
Where do I need to start? Clean the floors?
I'm James from prison. The house was intimidating because when you walked in the front door, there was like this long winding staircase, like something out of Gone with the Wind, and just nice, expensive stuff. And they took me in, and he showed me where my room was going to be. And when he opened the door to the room, the bed, the floor, the dresser was flooded with clothes, cosmetics, underwear.
Cosmetics.
Like deodorant and shampoo.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I didn't have anything, Haley.
See, Haley, I guess you don't think of it when you don't know it, to think that you didn't have any of that shampoo or anything like that.
I didn't have nothing. I had a prison ID in my paper sack. Just to be able to sit and eat dinner and watch TV. And then the next morning to wake up and be like, this is real. Like, this is really happening. Like, I'm not in prison anymore. It was crazy. Like, the freedom. Freedom is, freedom.
You definitely have an appreciation for it. Like I said, someone like me who's never, I've never not had freedom. But because of that, I've never thought about it.
Yeah.
I don't think about it in the same way that you do.
It's crazy. I remember the biggest thing for me was that I noted was that we could snack. They had a little den, sit in there and watch TV and eat chips. And I thought that was neat. And then he had a computer and, he was trying to get down to business with me that first night. And he was like, we're going to need to set you up an email address. And I was like, what is that? Like, I don't,
oh yeah.
What does that mean? Like,
that did all come to pass like in the 90s.
I don't know what that is. In prison, we would see commercials or like on the news where they talked about the World Wide Web or the internet
yeah,
or Yahoo or America Online. And we didn't know what that meant. We didn't understand it. Like, we didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
And then he wanted me to have an email address and he explained to me, like, when you go for job interviews, they're going to want, and I was like, what for? For what? And so he helped me set up my first email address. It was jkj5372@aol.com. And I would keep that for the next 10 or so years till AOL, till Gmail came around.
Right.
After we set it up, I was like, okay, now what do I do with it? Like, and he was like, well, you can send emails. And then, so he started sending me emails and I would open the emails and it like had some words. I was like, but you're sitting right here. It's something, I don't understand the concept. I'm not getting the concept. So it took me a minute. Then he tried to show me what the internet was. And it was the dial up, dong, dong, dong.
Yeah.
And I just, like, this is not productive. Like, I'm good.
Little did you know.
I'm good with books. I'll just use my book. But the first stop was the parole office.
Okay. And that's where you met your parole officer.
Mm-hmm. And apparently I got the doozy.
And what is the role or the job of the parole officer? Like, what's the point there?
Hey guys, hang tight.
We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Clarissa Christensen, the host of Thriving Through Menopause. If you're in perimenopause or menopause and feeling anxious, confused, and alone, this is the place to get some answers. Here, you'll learn about lifestyle interventions and mindset shifts to help you feel positive, informed, and connected. Join me and my guests as we educate, empower, and motivate you to thrive, not just survive, in menopause and beyond. Remember, you've got this. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
You report to them, and they're basically, when you're on parole, they're in charge of you. They can arrest you. They can put handcuffs on you and take you to jail.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because when you make parole, you're out, you're free, but you belong to them until you complete the parole, because technically you're still a prisoner on parole. So when I got in there and I met her, they were right. She was all business. She was not, there was no warm fuzzies, no fun and games. It was all business. And she started telling me all the things, and I just took out my notepad and started taking notes. Whatever I need to do, I'm going to do it. How did she say it? She said, you're free and you can go walk down the sidewalk like anybody else, but you're not free like other people, because you have this hanging over you. So anything you do I can send you back to prison. So if I can come to your house, I can come to your job, I can, anything. And they have that power. Basically, you belong to them, and there's nothing you can do except whatever they want you to do.
Right.
So she gave me this big list, and she was very harsh with me. Like I'm not playing games with you. But later on, she told me, she said, I've been a parole officer for 18 years. And when you came in my office and you started taking notes of the things that I was telling you, that was the first time that's ever happened. There's never been anybody.
That's hard to believe, though, really, for me, thinking someone coming out of prison. You would think that everyone has the want to stay out of prison and, let me just make sure I'm...
Well, I was just serious about my freedom.
Right.
Because any technical violation, but I'd seen guys come back to prison for stupid stuff.
Right, exactly.
Just for, moving. If you live somewhere and if you move somewhere else and you don't tell them, then that's a violation. Or if you step over a state line... That's a violation.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't even go see my granny unless I got
oh, wow.
You have to get a traveling pass.
Well, it's the simple stuff, you had your notebook and were taking notes to remind yourself of what you need to do. It's just so simple. Usually.
I didn't want to forget.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm making the point.
No, I'm we can gamble. We can gamble with other stuff, but I'm not gambling with my freedom.
Right.
I'm taking my freedom. I'm taking my freedom serious. We went to Rossi's in Birmingham. I talked to her and her husband, Pat. They were co-managers, and the dining room manager, his name was Nabil. He was from Israel, but he wasn't Jewish. He was Palestinian, I guess. And they didn't even make me fill an application. And I was just honest about, everything. Didn't hide anything. And they told me to be there tomorrow night.
Here's the deal. I just got out of prison 2 days ago.
No, 1 day ago.
1 day ago.
I got out of prison yesterday morning.
Nice to meet you.
This is Tuesday around lunchtime. I got out of prison yesterday morning.
That is so funny.
2 days ago, I was at West Jefferson.
I can just envision that conversation. Let me just break this down for you.
Well, I didn't want to. No, but he had already told her the backstory, so they already knew.
Yeah.
And but this was a nice place. This was like the Hilton Hotel. They hired me.
Wow.
And so I got a job. Okay. And not just that I got a job, but it was a job I wanted.
Oh, Shepherd's Fold is a halfway house. I did have a question when I was thinking about recording today, because I just don't have any experience with a halfway house. What exactly is a halfway house? Because when I think of that term, I think of people that are on drugs, that don't pay their rent, that are just finding an abandoned house and going and living in it.
No, most halfway houses are programs.
Oh, okay.
So they're trying to help people. There's different types. There's some for people coming out of recovery or trying to get off drugs. There's some for people that just have had, financial problems and they need some help. They need a place to land to figure it out. And then there's some, when I had Kairos in Birmingham, I worked with the Bethany home, and it was a halfway house, but it was helping women come out of abuse. It was a secret house. Nobody knew like they made me, you can't say where this is.
Yeah.
And they would help women, escape their abusers and put their life back together and then move on. And then there are other ones where they can bring their kids. They're just all over. But they're not all good. Now, all halfway houses are not. Just because they say they got a 501c3 and they're a nonprofit does not make them good, because some of them are rough.
Well, another question, random. Why do they call it a halfway house? You're halfway somewhere?
Well, the idea is it's like a step up. So I didn't want to go to a halfway house. I wanted to go home. Steve was the one who talked me into it. And he talked me, it was part of my parole plan of committing, it's not long. What is 4 months? And I remember as I was debating whether he was right or not, it did sound wise. Like, you don't want to get straight out of prison. You don't want to go, he called it going to Mama Nim's house. Don't go home to Mama Nim. Go figure it out somewhere else. So there was a part of me that felt like he was right, but then there was another part of me that felt like, I don't want to do all that. But as I was thinking about that, a couple, 2 or 3 days when we were doing our parole plan, I thought to myself, how many 4 months did I do in prison? And I counted them up, and I did a lot of 4 months in prison. So 4 months is nothing. And it ended up being like one of my best decisions was going there, because it just gave me, I didn't have to go straight out into the world and start trying to figure it out. I had some room to breathe, and, they helped me, get to the next place. And that was his goal. Halfway houses for people coming out of prison are just to help you take the step to get to where you need to be.
Like halfway to full freedom or something?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got there, and what was your first impression or thought? Like, what did you do? You check in like a hotel? Or?
No. I was shocked by the neighborhood. I'd already been prepped, though. There were a lot of guys that were with me in the honor dorm that were from Birmingham, and they were familiar with Southwest Birmingham. It's a bad neighborhood. And I had 2 or 3 of them, even the day before, the night before, or the day I left, say, James, look me in the eyes. I know how hard-headed you are. You're stubborn. You think you can do whatever you want. Don't go for a walk in the neighborhood by yourself, and don't even go outside at night. And they were right. It was scary. And it was like one way during the day, but at night you could hear gunshots, you could hear screams, you could hear sirens. It was rough. It was a rough neighborhood. So I was prepared for that, but I told myself, I got to do what I got to do. I ain't in prison. Mm-hmm. And then I was also taken back by it just looked like poverty. Like, it was an old rundown house. It was like one of those big old-timey houses, like from 200 years ago, where there are steps in the middle, no hallways. Every room led to another room, and there were like 40 guys living there.
Okay.
And I mean, it was like, square footage wise, it would have been like a mansion, but it was, it was run down and decrepit and old. And
yeah, but 40 people living in.
Well, we had plenty of space.
Okay.
It wasn't like tight. Like, we weren't like busting at the seams. Everybody had their own space. Most of the rooms were 2-man rooms. Some of them were 3-man rooms. And then there were 2 or 3 like 1-man rooms. And, it didn't take me long to negotiate the one.
Naturally.
I think my second month I negotiated, I need that 1-man room, because it was a trip.
But you started in a 3-man room, or?
It was a 2-man room. I was in a middle room, which meant that my room was like a hallway. So there was me and somebody else sleeping on the next bed over. But they were huge rooms, so it wasn't like we were close. I had my own closet and he had his own closet. And Joe had told me, go straight and get a lock before you put anything in your closet. And I didn't listen. And I found out quick that they stole everything there. They would steal your toilet paper. They would steal your toothpaste. They would steal your toothbrush. They would steal. They would steal anything that you left laying there, except for a Bible or any kind of book.
Who's they? The other men living there?
The other people living there. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it was like I digressed. It was worse than prison in that sense. So that was a shock.
That's crazy. I would say my only experience that's like even close to that is I stayed in a hostel when I was traveling in London.
What is a hostel? Is that like where hookers go?
No, James. No, it's like a...
Oh, that's a brothel.
Yes, big difference.
So he gave me some bus passes that first day, these little tokens. And he gave me a copy of the bus route of the Birmingham Metro, whatever that was called, and told me I need to go find a job. So I was like, I already got a job.
Check.
But I was I was like torn because I was like, they just push people out the door in the morning and tell them to go get on a bus. I don't even know how to ride a bus. I don't know where they go. I don't know how that works. I mean, I could figure it out. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I braced myself. I'm not going to be able to get my car from it. I'm just going to have to learn how to ride the bus. But I ended up, the way it ended up, I didn't feel like I was too good to ride the bus. But then people just started wanting to help and giving me rides and stuff, so it didn't...
So you never had to ride it?
No, and it didn't take me long once I started working, to save up my money and then get my savings account that he wanted to get insurance and stuff like that, and to be able to have my car. So it was like 6 weeks maybe before I got my car, but it was like getting out of prison again, because now I'm free. I'm so free. I can go where I want.
Except you have to be back by 6.
Yeah. And that was another one. The guy that was the staff person there.
Was that the assistant hobby or a Habby?
His name was Habby.
Okay.
And he was a skinny little guy.
Was he Indian?
Haggard looking.
Like
no, he was like from Ohio.
Oh, okay.
But he looked like a stoner, like he was out smoking weed. He wasn't. But like he had that look, like a hippie kind of look. And
what does a stoner look like?
You know, just unkept, always wearing flip flops.
Oh, okay.
You know, just lounging, lamping.
Dreads?
He didn't have dreads, but I could see him with dreads.
Okay.
Carried a backpack everywhere he went.
One of those, I know.
I don't know. I didn't like him, and he didn't like me.
What didn't you like about him?
He was annoying. He was like this... like a little spur in my side from the time I walked in there. Like, somebody stole my toilet paper the second day I was there. And if you have to use the bathroom, you have to have toilet paper.
Okay, pause though. Maybe some people don't know. I don't know if we've mentioned this before, but James is very particular about his toilet paper. I know in the 8 years that we've been married, I have bought the wrong toilet paper a couple times, and that was not okay. It's only the blue Charmin, right?
That's what I need. Don't be pulling up on me.
So
no
this pandemic thing had nothing on Team Jones because we were good on our toilet paper.
We're stocked.
Yeah.
Well, that came from prison.
Right.
I learned that in prison. Like, you have to stay ahead because you never know. You never know when things change.
Yeah.
Like, you can get in a toilet paper drought. Like, I'm going to have mine. I might even sell you a roll. No, I wouldn't do that. But
okay, so
he freaked out on me about the toilet paper and was like screaming at me.
Wait, it got stolen from you though, right?
Yeah, so I went and asked for another toilet paper.
Oh, okay.
And he started screaming at me, didn't understand, didn't I know, and da-da-da. And I said, don't I pay rent? Don't we pay rent? They don't pay for the toilet paper, blah, blah, blah. And like and this was like my second day, and it was after 10:30 because the doors were locked. And I just said, just give me the toilet paper, and for the rest of my time here, I promise you, I will never ask you for another toilet paper or anything. So just let me get, and I didn't. I went and bought my own toilet paper. Mm-hmm. There was something about Birmingham that was like Atlanta, but not. It was like, for me, Birmingham was like a collection of small towns just all pushed together.
Right.
Whereas Atlanta was like this big metro, like, just everything happening.
So there was a familiarity, but also it was different, something new. I just want to talk more about what did that keep stepping look like. So you were coming out of your I was about to say brothel.
Brothel. I wasn't a hooker.
Your halfway house.
I was trying to follow Jesus. I wasn't trying to be no hooker.
Came from. I think I like halfway houses.
You're
and
thinking
brothels.
hostel. You're thinking hostel. Because the last episode you said you stayed at a hostel.
Yeah, but brothel is totally different. I don't know why. Okay, so you kept stepping. You were keeping the step, and it was important. And I agree with all that.
And it kind of stung the way he said that.
I think you talked about this last episode.
No, I didn't. It was one that we taped that we didn't tape.
Oh. Yeah.
We actually taped one, and Haley had her microphone turned around, so we had to retape it. And this one's funny because, I talked about Jimmy Dunn and Walter, like they were big in the Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. Me and Walter, not so much. Walter came and picked me up one night and took me through, he gave me a ride through Birmingham in his brand new Ford Escort. He was so proud of it. But it was at night, and it was like downtown Birmingham, South Side through UAB, all that stuff. And I was just like like, wow, this is the big city. It's like I was in New York, but I mean, I know it wasn't.
Yeah.
But it felt like that to me. And there had been a conversation the night before was that, you know, I know that Catholics don't let you take communion unless you're like confirmed as a Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just saying, you know, I know I can't take communion at the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And he said, James, you know, you're more Catholic than most Catholics that I know. So he said, if you can take communion if you want to, just go to my wife. And I was like, okay. So we get to Catholic Church. It was a beautiful church, beautiful service. Jimmy actually was the minister of music. So he played on these he played this organ. It was like, but it wasn't like the Baptist church where they have a little piano, or it was like the pipes went through the ceiling. It was beautiful. And he was the one up there like getting down on the organ or whatever.
Getting down at the Catholic church. Yeah.
But I was taken back by how many times we had to stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. And then they wanted you to do all this repeating. And, you know, and then they passed the offering plate like 7 times. I'm like, how many times? I mean, how much money y'all got? I mean, what's happening here? But we went down there, took communion. I took the bread. And then I took the wine, and it was real wine. So, you know, I'm straight out of prison. Like, I hadn't had anything to drink in like 10 years probably. And I got a buzz, like, from the wine. I was like, whoa.
From the communion wine?
Yes, it was strong wine. It wasn't like, it was wine. It was like, it was close to whiskey. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know about that.
But I got a buzz. Like, I stumbled back to my thing. Yes, I did. I promise. But I was also like struggling with like guilt because you had to sign a thing at Shepherdsville that said you wouldn't drink alcohol. And I was like, I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble. And Walter was like, relax, James, relax. But then after the service, we were waiting on Jimmy and his wife to get done because they work there or whatever. And we were standing up at the front, and people would walk by and like bow down. Like the people would just walk by and just bow down. And there was nobody up because I noticed they were bowing down to the priest, but they were just walking by, just like bowing down. And so I was like, what are they doing? And he was like, oh, they're reverencing the ark. And I was like, the what? He was like, the ark. That's where Jesus is. And I was like, where's Jesus? And he was like, well, the priest made the bread turn into the body of the Jesus and the wine turn into the blood of the Jesus. And then the leftovers we put in the ark. So that's why they're bound down. And so I was like, do you believe that? And he was like, yes, I do. And so I said, Jesus is in me. And he's like, I know, it's because you took communion. And I was like, no, hold up, bro. Jesus was in me before I came in here. But there was a little bit of pressure from them, like, we think you should be here. And I was like, I think I should not. I've already found my church. It's the World Victory Church in Vestavia. But I went, and during it was like one of those big, it was like a very formal service, but I was chewing gum. And apparently, according to the Word of Faith people, that's a cardinal sin. Like, you don't chew gum during the service. But somebody came up to me during the service and said, I'm going to need to get your gum. And I was like, what?
Well, they wanted you to spit it out in their hand or something?
No, they came with a napkin. Like, I'm going to need you to give me your gum. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they were like, pastor says gum chewing disturbs the anointing. So I was like, are you serious? But so I gave him my gum, but I was like, I'll give you my gum, but I won't be back.
This is Steve Long.
Steve Long, I had a deep relationship with him. But what I found out after I got to Shepherdsville was that Joel Brumbach went to church at Steve's church. Habby, the guy that drove me crazy, the little assistant man.
Habby.
He went to Steve's church. Hey guys, hang tight.
We'll be right back.
To some extent, we're all still trying to figure out what we want to be when we grow up. In fact, it was from that struggle that I started my podcast, Career Sweet Spot. I'm Steve Perkins. I'm the founder of Greenhouse Coaching, and together with my team, we explore everything about this topic on our podcast, Career Sweet Spot. We share ideas, practical steps, and insights we've gathered from coaching thousands of individuals and companies. On Career Sweet Spot, we like to joke and have fun while also tackling the biggest topics intentional people are thinking about in their work, their leadership, and their life. So why don't you press pause and hit subscribe to Career Sweet Spot, a podcast all about life and career growth.
I feel like I need to say his name like that every time. Hobby.
Happy was a trip. Happy was a trip. But they all went to Steve's church. I wasn't sure what to expect. I knew I loved Steve. I was connected to Joel. Couldn't stand Happy. Didn't really know anything else, but I knew that his daughter Shauna was going there, and I thought, I need to hook up with that little something. Oh,
did we talk about that last week?
We talked about it in the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I felt like she was, there was some connections there.
Bow chicka bow wow.
But when I went in, it was like in a conference room. There might have been like 50, 60 people there. But they started the service with an open mic where they invited people to the open mic after worship.
Is that like karaoke open mic?
No, just they called it share time.
Okay.
And so I was immediately struck, Steve, are you going to give people a microphone? I've been in prison. I know what happens in church services when you let somebody go. It could go all kind of ways. But the first person that got up was an older lady who got up, was not sharing about anything except that she was making organic dog biscuits that were really good for dogs and very healthy for dogs.
So she was marketing her business.
She was selling her dog biscuits. And I was just like, this is not the place for me. I mean, I'll do this for this one time, but I'm one and done, I'm out. I saved up money, was able to get my first apartment, which was, I guess that was kind of complicated because Tommy was helping me. And I found out he had a lot of free time when he wasn't wallpapering or pastoring. And he kept finding me these apartments that I didn't want. He found me this one. I know the Lord Jesus, the Spirit, spoke to me and told me this was your apartment, and it was because it was close to him. And I went and looked at it, and there was no washer and dryer connections. And I was like, "Where am I supposed to wash my clothes?" And he was like, "Oh, they have a laundromat." And I was like, "No, I'm not doing a laundromat. No. If I'm gonna get an apartment, I need to be able to wash my clothes." And so I had not a lot of standards, but I guess that was the only one. I need to be able to, they have to have a washer and dryer connection. I ain't going to laundromat. And he didn't understand that, but I was just I know myself, I need to be able to wash my clothes. So everyone that he found, I turned him down. But then in my vision that I wrote, it said, you will find a nice place to live in a good area. So that narrowed the gap for me. And so I would show him that, I'm supposed to find a good area. I'm not supposed to live where it's cheap. I'm supposed to find a good area. Mm-hmm. And he got aggravated with me, but I was like, I'm going to hold out for the good area. So what ended up happening was he had a cousin, I forget her name, but she was renting a duplex in Cobble Heights, 3 blocks from where him and Brenda lived, in this big fancy neighborhood. But it was right behind the Summit in Birmingham, and it was a duplex. And she decided, or got married or something. I forget what happened. But it was one of those deals where it was a small real estate company on this property and you had to know somebody to get in. And he was able to get me in, and I ended up being able to rent that duplex apartment, and it was $300 a month, which was insane.
Which is insanely cheap.
So the ladies wanted to throw me a housewarming party, and I thought that was cool. But then I was kind of weird because I was like, ain't that what you do when you get married? And they were like, no, you're starting your own home. You need
for
things.
Sure. That's a thing. For sure.
So I was like, okay, let's do that. And then somehow it got out, at my job that I was having a housewarming party. Then all of a sudden, all them people wanted to come. So it turned into this huge event. And it was on a Sunday, and, somebody brought food, and it was just... This was a little bitty dupe. It was a 2-bedroom, probably 700-800 square feet, and there was like 30 people that came through there that day. But there was one of the assistant chefs that worked at Rossi's. He was from Italy, and he did not speak very good. He could speak English, but it wasn't like great English. And I remember him, his wife was the banquets director there, and she was American. She spoke good English, but he came up to me and was like, James, I really want to come to your party, but can you tell me, like, explain to me, like, what is, how do you say, warm house party? So I was like, no, it's a housewarming party. You know, they had all these people up on the stage, and he would preach, and they would sing and holler and do all that stuff. But there was many times I would look up, and there would be more people on the stage than there were in the congregation. So it was just like, I don't know. Funny. But I didn't want to leave because I had this statistic that I heard. If you can be with one church, with one job for 1 year, then your statistics go up in making it. So I was like struggling with that. Plus I didn't want to church hop. But then it kind of came to a head when they did a special church service where they had a visiting, traveling person that came in. Mm-hmm. His name was Tim. I don't remember his last name.
So a visiting traveling person, like for those of us that... I
don't know. He like went around from church to church and put on services.
Like spoke or whatever?
Oh, he did more than speak. They say that he was a prophet. And a prophet, if you don't know what that is people that can tell you things that God is saying to you. But he also said that he was an anointed psalmist. And I was like, what does that mean? And somebody that was next to me was like, it means he writes his own songs from the Lord. So I was like, okay. And then out in the lobby, he was also had a clothing business with Christian symbols on them.
So he was let's break this down. He was a prophet.
He was a prophet.
He was a songwriter. A.K.A. anointed psalmist.
Singer.
He also had a clothing line.
It's called Zion Clothes or something. Some religious thing attached to it. But they were like, it was like, ain't nobody finna pay $80 for no pair of jeans, especially looking like that.
Were they anointed jeans? Were they?
He said they were, but I'm not into all that. So he started off the night with a little message, then he was going to do the prophecies. So that means everybody's supposed to walk up there and he's supposed to tell you something. So I walked up there and he like laid his hands on me and like took a deep breath and shivered and was like, I have a word for you, Brother James. So I was like, okay. And I was like sincere, like I'm waiting on my word. And he was like, I see a book opened. The book is opened from Birmingham to Montgomery. The interpretation of this vision is that you shall preach the gospel from Birmingham to Montgomery and from Montgomery to Birmingham, but nowhere else. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, none of this is, and I've studied, I have teaching, like they say, if somebody gives you a prophecy, you either know it's right or it's not. And if you know it's not, then you're not supposed to even think about it. So I went back and sat down and was like, well, maybe he's, good for somebody else. Maybe Jesus don't want to tell me anything tonight. But he started singing a song, and the song was about the anointing, and that's what they call like when God's presence comes down. And the anointing in the Old Testament, they did it with oil. So that's like how some of these like,
with oil. What do they do with the oil?
Well, in the Old Testament, they would anoint people with oil. Like,
does that mean you pour it on them, or?
Yeah, like the priests but these were Jewish people. Like they did, this was and plus you needed oil back then because you were dry. And I don't know. Let's don't go off on that.
I know, but I'm trying to understand when you're talking like this, it's like what?
In the Old Testament, they used oil to like anoint kings and prophets and people. And so in the New Testament, the anointing is not that. It's the Spirit.
Okay.
Of God. That's the anointing. So he started singing about the anointing, and he's up there, and he's got like one of those little pop-up keyboard things, and he's up there, and then he starts singing about the anointing, and then he starts calling it the grease. And he says...
A.K.A. oil.
Yeah. So he starts calling it the grease, and I think they said he was making this up in real time. I don't know. But then he started singing, the song was Release the Grease. So he was like, Lord, release the grease, release the grease. And it was getting weirder and weirder, like by the second. It just kept, it was just more weird and weird. So I'm sitting there. There was probably 50 people in the congregation, maybe a little bit more. So they started a march. They started riding the train. You know, come on, ride this train. Let's ride it. Choo, choo. Come on, ride the train. It's the choo, choo. But it was the Release the Grease train. So everybody was on the train, going around the church, hollering and carrying on. And it was not a very big church. It was just a little... I couldn't get up. I couldn't do it.
You couldn't bring yourself to...
I couldn't get on that train. And I was watching the train, and they were going around, and he just kept getting louder and louder, and he would say the same thing over. Release the grease. Then he started spelling it. RELEASETHEGREAESE. You know, just...
So were people singing along with him or clapping or what?
They were carrying on. So they went around a few times. I was towards the back, and I didn't get on the train. So they stopped the train for James. And the pastor's wife was like, James, come on, you're supposed to be on this train. So I was like, I don't want to get on the train. She was like, come on and get on this train. Get on this train. So I got up, we got on the train. I didn't holler until I walked around one full time.
One lap.
Did one lap on the train, and I got to the end. Stepped off the train. I wasn't in the middle anymore. I looked back and I said, Lord Jesus, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And I left, and I never went back.
You never went back after that?
Nope, that's the end. Mm-hmm. And the last one I did for Greg was in Vestavia. It was a big house that we were there for like 2 weeks. We did all kind of stuff, but we were putting in a sprinkler system in the back. And I'd started to trench a hole. And I was at the edge of I don't know if a trencher is like a thing that goes down in the ground, like you lower it with a switch, and it goes down, and it creates like a little thin hole to be able to run pipes through for a sprinkler system. Uh-huh. But as I was lowering that down in at the edge of the yard next to the fence, it hit a rock and it bounced. And when it bounced, it grabbed the chain link fence.
Oh my gosh!
No, it was a miracle that I didn't get hurt, but. It was like the fence was there one time, 1 minute, and the next minute the fence was gone. And then it was there were just poles standing there, and I felt like the poles were mocking me. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing here?
You felt like the poles were mocking you?
They were mocking me. The poles were just looking at me like, why are you doing this? Like, this is not, because I'm not even good at stuff. Like, I can play in a flower bed, but I can't do. So I got my little walkie-talkie. It was like you go, and it was a phone too, but if you did it, all the people would hear you.
Right.
So I was like, does anybody know how to fix a chain link fence? And my boss was like, why? And so I drove back that day. I went in and I said, look, I appreciate you giving me an opportunity. This has been
something.
A hard summer. You know, I mean, he paid me the best he could. He did.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I got sun poisoning now and I'm miserable. And I said, I'm tired of tearing up your equipment and you have this sadness about me and you want to keep letting me do it, but I'm not made for this. So I said, I'm putting in a notice. I need to put in a notice and I need to do something else. And he said, well, if you don't work here, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going back to my world. I'm going back to the restaurant world. I'm going to get me a job in a restaurant. And he was like, how long do you think that would take you to do that? And I said, I could probably find a job by the end of the day. And he said, well, you're free if you want to just be done.
Oh,
no, he was a good guy.
Yeah.
He knew
you're
my story.
Free.
But it was I was just in a lost kind of place where it was gosh, I hate this. Like, I hate everything about this. I hate, not having enough money. I hate trying to figure it out. And it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do was ask my mom to leave because that hurt her feelings. And then, but it was, I had to do what I had to do.
Mm-hmm.
But again, every day I would wake up and be like, this is not life. That's not what I'm doing. I mean, I hated both the jobs I was working. I hated the church I was going to. I didn't hate it. I just felt like I wasn't getting anything out of it.
Right.
She called me and she said, I know how much you liked working in Italian and you're doing so good and so great. I took a job at this little place on Rocky Ridge Road. It's called Leonardo's. It's owned by one of the Brunos and Mr. Falletta. I think you would love it here. It's small. We have a great little lunch business, great little dinner business. The food is authentic. So, everything, it just feels like something you would love. I think we need to maybe pause on that and we'll pick up next because that was where my season changed.
Well, okay, so that is interesting. Yes, let's pause and pick up next time. But you say now you can see that's where your season changed. But as you were driving to that restaurant, you got the job there like immediately. You didn't know.
But
so let me just say that
this makes me very emotional.
Well, okay, so here's the deal. So this is about to shift your season.
Oh yeah,
entirely, and get like a whole new kind of era for you, which we will unpack.
My next start,
right?
Yeah.
But I'm feeling like led to encourage myself, as well as other people that are listening that you don't know, like, what you're embarking on, or maybe what's happened even recently, that is a total shift in season for you. That is a total shift in era that you don't know that that's what that is, but just to know that there's a gift maybe that you don't even realize you're walking out or walking in right now that's about to change things for you.
Hey guys, hang tight.
We'll be right back.
Hi, it's Ashley Rogas here, host of the podcast called $1 Bills. This is a podcast devoted to helping you learn and grow your financial toolkit so you can ultimately respect your money and foster long-term growth. This podcast is for anyone looking to improve their financial situation and either grow from scratch or develop new techniques to continue to thrive. People are emotional creatures and ultimately make poor financial decisions as a result. Let me help you to make conscious, non-emotional decisions about your money. Listen to $1 Bills over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
That's true. This next season of my life was one of the best ones of my life, actually.
Why are we so emotional?
I don't know.
We're both starting to cry right now. What is our problem?
Because you know the story. Yeah. Okay, the first shift I had, they told me that Raphael was going to train me. And so Dana was like, you got to follow him at least one shift and you can start waiting tables tomorrow, but you've got to know the menu. Mm-hmm. And the menu was similar to the one we had at Rossi's, but there was like neat stuff on there that was like, they did like a rolled eggplant, Parmesan type of deal. There was just a lot of stuff on there that was new that I had to figure out what it was. Yeah. But that first night, Raphael he was from Mexico, and he was a hustler, and he was like 6 feet tall, and he was all about making his money. But he wouldn't really show me anything. He wouldn't train me anything. He was just like, you follow. And but I met like all the people that work there. Big Tony, we called him Big Tony because he has a son named Tony. His name was actually Anthony Filletta. So Big Tony is Anthony Filletta III, and Little Tony is Anthony Filletta IV. Okay. So I met him, and then the lady that ran the office, Boo, she was Tony's aunt. And
it's like a movie. Boo.
Yeah. Well, her name was Cosette, but they called her Boo. Okay. But the food was amazing. It was off the charts.
It's making me want some right now.
Oh, I can't even eat Italian anymore. I mean, you know that. Even that nice place you like to go, it's not.
Gianmarco's.
There's nothing like Leonardo's. Yeah. I mean, Tony ruined Italian for me.
Well, if they had
in a restaurant,
was it Mama Connie?
Yeah,
coming in with the recipes and making sure everyone was doing it right.
She was handling her business.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But Tony cooked too. You know, he stayed back there, but he was just a character. Like there's nobody else like him. Mm-hmm. He was full of life. He was a storyteller. He liked to tell stories. And, you know how you tease me about hyperbolizing and you know, or exaggerating. You say that?
Yes.
He was like that times 10. Like everything was more.
Wow.
No, he did, but he had a gift. Like he made people feel special. Like the customers, he would go out and go around to every table and talk to them with his apron on, and he loved it. He loved everything about the business. He loved making people feel special. He loved telling stories. And he had this idea of the experience that we needed to provide for people coming in to eat. But when we didn't have a musician for a night, he wanted live music. So it had this thing, it was called a MIDI file, and it was you would put a floppy disk in, and it would play whatever you put on it. So he would sit in his office and search MIDI files and download them on a disk, and he would go out and push the MIDI file into the piano, and then he would sit there like he was playing. And it was the funniest thing, but people really thought that he was playing the piano. Like, they really thought that Tony was playing piano.
That's so
and
funny.
I mean, I would be waiting on tables and people would say, Tony is just so talented. I was like, yeah.
So he let them believe that he was playing.
Yeah.
It, which is funny for you because
we all knew.
You're just the opposite, though. Like, we have noted this episode and last of how you hate like lying and let's be real and don't cover things up. And so you just let that go?
It was cute. It was funny, and it was kind of what, if you knew him, it made him because he wasn't doing it. He wasn't trying to be deceptive. He just knew that people needed an experience, and that was what made Leonardo special.
Right, but for you, I mean, it kind of seems like that was the first time you really experienced that.
Well, something happened with him. He became like a father to me, and I never thought he was my father. You know, I never thought like. But he filled a role, you know, Steve filled a big role, but then he filled a big, like a daily role of the things that he just, but also I would do things with him that other people wouldn't do. Like Dana and Tony and his older daughter, Michelle, I didn't get to know her until later because she wasn't really part of the business then. Mm-hmm. He would want to go do stuff like, let's go to Bahama Breeze at 11 o'clock.
What's Bahama Breeze?
It was a restaurant out on 280. It was a big, like a Caribbean. Okay. I mean, it's fun to go eat, you know, this fish or chicken. You know, it was like Caribbean food.
Yeah.
So he would want to do these things that, you know, nobody wanted to do them with him. Mm-hmm. And so he would ask me and I would say yes. Because I wasn't like trying to suck up to him. I really wanted to go. Let's go to Bahama Breeze.
You were straight out of prison. You're like, let's go.
Let's go to Bahama Breeze. But he did so many things for me. He took me to my first Alabama game at Legion Field, and I believe that was the last Alabama game that was ever played at Legion Field.
Oh, wow.
He was so excited about Alabama football. He was a huge Alabama fan.
For our international listeners, Alabama is a college football team, and they're the best in the country and have been for several years.
In the world.
Basically.
Like, he took me on so many, like, firsts. Like, he took me to my first Alabama game. I say he bought me my first suit, but when I said that before, somebody else, that lady that went to World Victory Church was like, I bought your first suit, but like he bought me the first suit I wanted. Like, I still have the suit that he bought me. Like, he taught me that, you know, you don't have to have a suit that matches. You just buy a sport coat, you buy pants, you buy a shirt and different ties. Like, you don't have to be all matchy. Like, he taught me how to dress.
Yeah.
But he was taking me to a wedding. One of the Bruno's sons was getting married, and he took me to the it was a big, like, you know, it was like Prince Harry getting married. Like, it was crazy.
In the Alabama world.
Yeah. But he also, he helped me buy my first house. Around the beginning of 2005, I began the process of opening my own business, and the girl came home and we got together. And so I really thought that I had everything that I ever wanted, everything I ever dreamed of. And I remember one night during this time, like, I had a dream, and I was sitting at the head of the table, and like Shauna was there, and Steve and his family, and my mom, and it was like, in the dream, we were like at a table, but we were in my restaurant, and it was like, I woke up just so full of hope, like everything that I ever wanted, every dream is coming true. It's crazy.
So what we're going to do is this episode, which I don't know why I find this so exciting to talk about.
I won't even talk about it if you don't want me to. I mean,
no, I want you to. I feel like, I mean, this is the most interesting episode so far, that we're going to be just talking about Shauna and that relationship.
Well, in my mind, she was supposed to marry me, and somehow that got stolen from me. But now it was Jesus putting it all back together the way it was supposed to be, and it was an exciting time, you know. And I did fall in love with her. I mean, it wasn't.
I can imagine that she's moved in with Tanya and Jeremy, and then you were already over there. I can think like Young in Love, like the thrill of like, ooh, we're going to see him. It
was neat.
It is an exciting feeling and time. I feel like I was winning if I was her. I'm getting flowers as big as my cubicle at work, going to dinner, getting $5,000, settling accounts. I'd be like, Mama is in the game.
Okay, but that was where the for lack of better words, the shit hit the fan.
Okay.
After that.
How did the shit hit the fan?
So I'm just on top of the world, heading back, doing my thing, and I get a call from Steve, and he was very harsh with me. So I was like, what's up? And I was telling him about the dishwasher and all things. And he said, I have to call you. I have to confront you. I have to confront your behavior. And I said, what behavior? And he was like, what you're doing with Shauna has to stop. This has to stop. You're in sin. And I was like, no, I'm not. And he's like, she's married and you're sending her flowers. And so he had found out I sent her flowers, and he went on a deep investigation of what we were doing, like asking Tanya and Jeremy, asking people, asking Shauna. He found out we've been going to lunch, and, I've been hanging out over there. So he told me that I was sinning. And I was like, sin is like having sex. So I haven't even kissed her. I haven't done anything. And he commanded me to stay away from her.
Oh, that's not good. Commanding you to not do something or do something.
Well, I had a level of respect for him, though, at that time, where he was like a father to me, but he was also my pastor. And now it was just getting twisted because now he was my business partner, too.
Yeah.
So it was weird. But I always had a level of respect for him. I listened to him. I probably listened to him more than I've ever listened to anybody.
So what was your thought then on the phone? What was your first thought when he commanded you, use that word, to stay away from her?
Ashamed. Like I was just, because he said I was a sinner. You're in sin.
Oh, you felt ashamed? That was, so
I felt very
make you
ashamed.
Angry?
Not at first. It did later on.
Yeah.
But no, in the beginning I was ashamed. And I was confused because I was like, y'all are pushing this. Y'all were pushing this from the day she got here. Like y'all were, like even her mom, I felt like they were pushing it. Like they were. I have a friend, Nelson, that was the worship leader at Grace and Truth. He was on the elders. Because like in that kind of church, the elders, like with the pastor, run the church. And he called me and he said, Daryl has put a complaint against you to the elders. And
what does that even mean?
Like they're going to like talk about you and see how to punish you or whatever. I don't know what they do. I don't know what happened.
Talk about how to punish you.
Well, I don't know what would have happened, but Nelson called me and I said, well, what do you want me to do? I said, it's not like we're having sex or anything like that. And he's like, I know, and I know you, and I know her. He said, but I think you need to show up and speak for you. I don't like this idea of them like bringing a case against you and making this big thing out of it. And so I went.
I have to pause and say this.
It was like a courtroom.
Literally sounds like historical times, like when the church is bringing a case against you.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of have a hard time with that. Now, I don't know a lot about, and I'm trying not to judge, but at the same time, it just feels very, like, what can they do to you?
I was getting myself into a situation that I didn't see coming. Later on, it would be like that.
Okay. Well, I just was curious.
It was always something. But in the beginning, I did not think that. But then after they said yes and we started moving the ball forward, I sat down and had a meeting with Steve at his house. And that was my first, like, red flag. Because his...
Did you know it was a red flag at the time?
I did, but I didn't... I thought maybe I was just being scared or, trying to find a reason not to move forward.
Right, yeah. But
the red flag was just the way that he talked to me. Like, he was very, like, forceful with me, like, just not in any way he'd ever talked to me before. I got a call from the White House. And it was a voicemail. You
never know, do you?
Crazy. It was a voicemail on my cell phone when I was at work. And
that is insane.
It freaked me out. And it was like, this is so-and-so calling from the White House. We got your, President Bush got your letter, blah, blah, blah. And so I called back. We had a little chat. And it wasn't like the Oval Office. It was like somebody, he probably never read the letter. But they, his staff, the White House has got hundreds of people that work there. But whatever it was, it tugged on the heartstrings.
Right.
And they got back with me. And she told me that I needed to go through the Small Business Administration, and I didn't know what that was. But lucky for me that the chapter for North Alabama was in Birmingham. So she sat me up a meeting with the Small Business Administration. It's actually in Homewood, right outside of Birmingham. Yeah, it wasn't good.
So, I mean, I'm asking, do you think that was the big thing that kind of like
the whole thing was bad.
Yeah.
The whole thing was bad. Then you had the stuff with Shauna going on. Steve's attitude kind of changed towards me because we had a team. The four of us would meet once a week and plan what we were doing that week, to keep the ball moving forward. And at the time that all this stuff started happening with Shauna, and then if you remember from the last episode, I canceled them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I also put the brakes on this. I was like, I'm not doing this. This is crap. I'm not getting sucked into this. I'm not getting stuck in this. I got to figure out a way to get out of it. So I put the brakes on it.
But the reality is you already really felt stuck.
I was stuck. Lord have mercy. Yeah. But I put the brakes on it for like 2 or 3 months. Like I didn't even try to meet. Like I don't want to meet right now. Ain't nothing to talk about. So during that process, Steve kind of took the reins from me for that. So now I had Jeremy like doing a hostile takeover of the process of the contracting. And then Steve doing like a gentle, I'm just going to ease in here and take over because James can't handle this kind of deal. So that just bothered me even more because now I feel like, like they're controlling me. And I didn't like that. I hated every part of it.
And you were the prison project.
It was a disaster.
No, I shouldn't say that. But okay, so...
But it wasn't a happy day for me.
Well, it wasn't a happy day?
No, it was an awful day.
So did a lot of people come?
Hey guys, hang tight.
We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Pat Flynn here, host of the award-winning podcast, the Smart Passive Income Podcast, which was created to help you learn how to become an entrepreneur. And in the simplest way, too. Entrepreneurship can be very difficult. I like to simplify things. And I interview people like Josh Hall and Shane and Jocelyn Sams and Maria Fela. Who are they? Well, they're people just like you, people who have taken action after listening to the show and have built a business that has changed their lives. And I'd love to share an episode with you that I think will inspire you to get started, too. Check out the link in the description or go to smartpassiveincome.com/122 to get inspired, get what you need to get started, and change your life. You got this, and thank you.
Yeah, actually the news came. They came and did a news story. Well, Joe Brumbach from Shepherd's Fold, he called me the day we opened, early that morning, and he said, I have a friend at Fox 6 that wants to come and do a news story on Kairos. And I said, really? And he's like, yeah, they want to do it today on opening day. So I said, well, awesome. And he said, well, they want to tell your story. And I was like, okay, I'm fine with that. Up until that time, my story had not been like public. They made my story public that day. And for me, it was awful.
So
I just wanted to throw up the whole time. Just like it was like I had a premonition that I've gotten myself into something that's going to be a disaster. And it was something that I don't want to be in. I don't want to be controlled by other people.
So to me, that's really sad. I mean, what would you say, like, for other people? Like, what was the biggest takeaway? Like, what's the lesson you feel like you learned and you would want someone else to know?
That you don't do it. You don't do it at all costs. Like, you don't move into something. You don't push through something at all costs and give up your freedoms, give up. I made a lot of concessions during that time.
Yeah.
Things that I would never do again. Mm-hmm. Like I would never, ever even come close to getting involved in a situation like that again.
Yeah.
But, once you get in, you're in.
Yeah.
So it was one of those days where everything was bothering me and I was just I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here, get out of this. I can't do this. And there was a car outside that kept circling the building. And Jeremy, he's kind of like Royal. My son Royal. He's very aware. He pays attention to everything, and he would call attention to everything. Mm-hmm. He was like, why does this car keep circling? And I said, it don't matter. We're closed, so who cares? Like, why do you even care? And the car pulled up to the front. It was just a regular car. And these two guys jumped out, and they came to the front door, and they said, we need to see James Keith Jones. And I said, that's me. What's up? And they were like, can you step outside? And I said, sure. I mean, I thought it was like a customer or something. So I step outside, and he said, I'm so-and-so with the U.S. Marshals. I have a warrant for your arrest.
What?
And I thought it was a joke. I mean, I thought it was a joke. He said, I have a warrant for your arrest. And I said, okay, ha, ha, ha. Because I had a friend, Paul Windorf, who was actually an elder at Grace and Truth. He was a Hoover police officer. Mm-hmm. Like, he's in the FBI now. He's moved up. You know, he's awesome.
Up and out.
But he would play jokes on people with his police car. Like, maybe I shouldn't be telling that, but he would, like, pull people over, like, just as a funny. You know, like friends, like people he could play with that. Like, so I thought it was Paul Windorf playing a joke on me. I really did. And I was like,
terrible joke.
I was like, okay, ha. But they turned me around and put handcuffed me behind my back, and then reached down and put handcuffs on my feet. And I was like, oh shit, like what's happening here? And
so this was a real arrest.
They arrested me. And I didn't know if I didn't understand what's happening. I was like, I know I ain't did no crime. You know, what's happening? And then I looked back, and there was Lenore and Jeremy and Wanda. And they were looking at me like I did something wrong. And I was like, I don't know what this is. You know?
That is insane. So you're standing outside your restaurant and all this, and they are putting you under arrest.
They arrested me.
They handcuffed your hands and feet.
And threw me in the back of the car and sped away.
What?
It was, I don't know. It was very traumatic. And they said, come out. And they said, go in this little thing where you talk through the glass. And there was a man sitting there that I didn't know, never seen him. And he said, I need you to sign these papers. I need you to not say a word. I need you to sign these papers. And then they're going to release you. You're going to walk out into the bay. You're going to take a right. You're going to walk straight out, and you're going to see a red Bronco. I need you to get in the red Bronco.
This is like a freaking movie. Why aren't we doing this an episode by itself?
This should be an episode by itself. It was crazy. So I was like, but I was still half asleep. I was like, okay, sign my name, walk out. I get in the car with him.
Who does that?
I get in the car. No, look, he looks over at me and he said, I don't know you. I don't know why the hell I'm doing this. And I said, can we pause? Like, what are we doing? Like, what's happening?
Who are you, and what the hell are you actually doing?
He said, I'm a bail bondsman, and I've never done this before, and I honestly, I don't know why I'm doing this. But I've got to go to Troy, and so I thought it would be nice. Your friends are coming to pick you up.
Wait, okay, stop.
I'm going to Troy, and I'm just going to take you to Troy. We'll meet them there.
How did this guy even know about you in the jail?
Because they called him, bonded him. Like,
okay, so I
think it was Mike Farrell. Like, he had been in prison. He had a rough record.
So they had called this connection.
Just a bondsman.
A bondsman.
So for some reason, this guy felt compelled to do all this weird stuff for me that he didn't know what he was doing. But then he looked at me and was like, "If you try anything stupid," and I was like, "What are you? I'm not. Whatever. Whatever." So we drive to Troy.
Wait, hold on. Let's pause. Hold on, I feel like
this is crazy. It is crazy.
I mean, I'm a very fast processor, and I feel like I need to hear this again. So he said you needed to, that right then and there, he was bonding you out.
I was already out. I was sitting in his car. We were driving away. I was not in jail anymore.
I'm talking about when you went to the glass.
I didn't know what he was doing.
Okay, so he said...
He looked at me. He said, I'm going to pass this to you. You need to sign this paper. And I need you to not speak a word about anything. I just need you to walk.
You weren't skeptical?
I didn't know what to do. I was scared. But I was like, what is happening? Like, it didn't. And it was early in the morning, and I knew it didn't make any sense. Like, 4 hours to get from Birmingham to
So you
Dothan.
Signed the papers.
I signed the papers.
And then you immediately walked out.
They set me free. They let me out.
And then you followed his instructions.
I walked
out.
To
the right, red Bronco.
To the right. I walked out. There was a red Bronco. I jumped in the red Bronco, and we're on the highway.
I feel like this is like an OJ scene.
It was weird. It was weird. So then we're headed to Troy. No, it gets worse. It gets weirder. So we get to Troy.
You're headed to Troy.
And it's around like 8, like it's still early in the morning.
For all people listening, I have never heard this story, just so you know.
It was early in the morning, like nothing was happening. It was early. He pulls into a Kentucky Fried Chicken that was closed. So we're the only people in the parking lot. And I'm looking around like, And he starts
I'd be
smoking.
like, I'm finna die.
He starts smoking a cigarette, and I was like, can I have a cigarette? Like, I need to do something. So we're sitting there, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes. He's not talking to me. He's like weirded out. Like, what am I doing? Like, I think he's nervous because, he can get in trouble for that.
Right. For what? I don't even understand. If he's a bondsman and he bonded you out, what can he get in trouble for?
He's supposed to bond me out when they hadn't even paid the bond.
Oh, they hadn't paid the bond. Okay.
It was just weird. And he kept saying, I don't know why I'm doing this. And I was like, I don't know why you keep saying that to me. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't even know what you're doing.
So Steve and Mike Farrell pull up in the Kentucky Fried Chicken parking lot. And so there's 2 cars there. The red Bronco, and they're driving.
This is early in the morning.
It's like 8:00. They get out and they count out cash, $1,000 to him because I had a $10,000 bond. And just counting out $100 bills to him that my mom had gave him the money, but they're counting the money out to him, and to me it looked like a drug deal. Like I was like, if I was watching this, like if I was like standing on the side of the road watching this happening, I would think, they're getting crack or heroin or something. Something's happening. I never had to go to court. I never had to do anything. But it was very traumatic. But at the same time, it made it increased my faith. Like I understood, like God is for me. If he can let them come and arrest me and take me 4 hours away and get me back in time to cook lunch the next day.
And you probably got more sleep than you would have ever gotten.
I did. Well, Wanda was the best one during that time. She was my bus person.
Yeah.
She was like, we were wringing our hands, stressed out, going crazy. And you were over there sleeping. Oh,
that's great.
It was neat. So but after that.
It was neat.
No, I mean, it wasn't neat what happened, but it was neat the way that God's hand was on that. There was no way that could have. And then, that night when I went in at Leonardo's and all those lawyers were there in Tony, they were like, what the hell?
Disbelief.
And I was just like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm here, Was like, oh, let me go get Dino. He's Greek. And I was like, I thought y'all said there wasn't no Greek people here. Like, what's happening here? But she went and got the guy that was the manager of the cafe. He came out. He was a little short guy, probably maybe in his 60s, had like salt and pepper hair. Mm-hmm. Very nice. And he wanted to know my story. He started asking me questions. So I pulled everything out and told him the whole story, showed him everything that I had. And he wanted to help me. You could tell he wanted to, but he didn't know like how to.
Right.
So I think we sat there for about 10 or 15 minutes. He came back with another guy, and this guy did not look like what you would think a typical Greek person looked like. He was like 6'3". I mean, he was very tall, blonde headed, had dark skin and like green eyes, but he didn't look Greek to me.
Yeah.
But when he started talking, he talked Greek because his English was broken.
Yeah.
So he actually sat down at the table with us and started asking me questions. I think our conversation lasted about 4 minutes. And he said, you don't know his last name? And I said, no. And he said, this is like a needle in a haystack. If you don't have a name, you have nothing. You have nothing. And he like got up and left, like stomped off, and he turned around and said, you don't have a name, you have nothing. And
you're like, wow, you're kind of aggressive.
Well, he was just being blunt. Like, don't waste my time. Basically what he was saying. But Shauna picked up the paper that I had in the folder, and she yelled out to him. He won a cutlass in a poker game, in a card game. And the guy stopped, like froze. And he flipped around and he looked at me and he said, it was red cutlass? And I said, I think so. And he came running back and he sat down in front of me and he told me who my father was. And it was crazy. It was just crazy. And Derek was like, hold up, let me get this right. So James got in a car and drove across America to Denver, Colorado, and he didn't even have a last name, and he found his father. Like, how did this happen? This is a testimony.
A testimony.
And it was in the middle of a lunch rush. And the lunch rush at Kairos was crazy because it was like everybody came in at one time and, you know, you're cooking, doing all the things. And Lenora came to the back and said, James, you have a phone call. And I said, I can't talk on the phone. I'm cooking. And she said, I think you're going to want to take this call. And I said, I think you're going to want to take a message. And she said,
that sounds like you.
She said, you're going to want to take this call. It's coming in from Greece. And I don't know. I almost felt like I almost passed out. And I took the phone and I was looking at it. It was on hold, but it was like a number with like 75 numbers. Like I'd never seen a number like that before. And I went in my office and I locked the door and I said, hello, this is James. And he said, hello, James, this is your father. And he's like hollering in the phone. And then I'm like, I'm trying to talk. I'm like, why?
Did you cry at that time?
I did. It was very emotional. Well, hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the best of season 3 and can't wait to see you next week for season 4.
Yes, guys, it's a new beginning. I cannot wait.
Good things coming. Out of these videos, please hit the like button, the subscribe. If you never want to miss a recipe or anything I do, hit the little bell and you'll get notifications.